Hey guys, I'm Gavin here with War-Torn Creative, joined by Jared, and this is Army Builder, our second episode now.
Yes.
And we're here to talk about, or actually Jared's more here to talk about, but Primaris Marines and building a Primaris list. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Primaris?
So right now, Primaris it's kind of hard to run a mono list unless you spam the Hellblasters.
Yeah.
Because those guys are really good for what they cost.
And lieutenants, right? Lieutenants and Hellblasters?
Yeah, lieutenants and Hellblasters are like my primo, like that's the best units you'll get out of that box. So I slapped together like a 2,000 point list that's kind of like casual, like mid-tier competitive. Like you'll do okay.
So like a gaming club kind of stuff.
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
go
like,
in and pick up
casual
games.
tourney kind of deal,
Yeah.
even if you wanted to. It's 1996 points. You could adjust it here and there, but yeah, we'll just run down it. It's a battalion, and as I've said, Primaris, it's hard to run a mono, so I've injected some regular Space Marine stuff to kind of compensate.
I feel like we're going to see a lot of that until we start getting these multi-part plastic kits. I have a hunch that they're going to be a lot more like Age of Sigmar, where we had these mono builds and we thought they were only going to be mono builds until these kits came out and all of a sudden something gets added.
Yes, and right now, Space Marine, Primaris Space Marines, they're still a part of the Adeptus Astartes. They're going to be in the new Codex that rolls out.
There is no Codex Primaris other than, I guess, the one that's in the starter kit.
As it stands right now, we only have the handful of units that came from the Dark Imperium box. I know that the Reavers are coming out in 2 weeks as of this filming.
Yeah. And then we have the Captain and the Librarian that just went out on pre-order.
Yes, I'm going to pick that guy up, the Librarian.
Librarian looks awesome.
But anyways, let's go ahead and get right into it. It is a battalion detachment. Leading the four, my goal is to put as many Primaris in as I can. So leading the four, I have the Captain in the Gravis armor. Yeah, I just finished him for the hobby. For the War-Torn Weekly goal.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's pretty good. He's like any other captain. He can confer his buff, which is rerolling hits of 1. He's toughness 5.
He inspires people just by being beefy.
Yeah, by being
beefy as shit.
Beefy captain. The Gravis armor gives him +1 toughness. He's got 6 wounds and a 3-up save. But he's a little slower. He's got movement 5. Which is okay. I'll take that.
That bump to toughness is pretty solid, especially now that we're seeing, I mean, granted, everything can wound everything now, but strength 4 weapons, wounding him on a 5-up is really solid.
Yes. And so the captain, he's going to be, with the other HQ choice that I'll get to in a second, the goal set is that you have this very strong core that advances up the board to clear out any threats, deal with any problems, while you have some other units that are just going to hold the fort, be like an anvil unit to just kind of hold steady.
So does this mean we don't have any dedicated transports in use in this list?
There's only, I believe, only 2 transports I have on this list.
Okay,
we'll
so
get
there's
those.
still transports involved.
This is to make up for the fact that in the competitive, at least in the competitive scene, it's an objective game.
That's right.
Right, you got to go for those objectives, and it's a big board. Movement 6 can only take you so far.
And even in friendly games where you're just kind of like slugging it out, transports can, I mean, the fact that they can do something in close combat, it's pretty solid.
Yes. Following the captain, we have his lieutenants. I've incorporated 2 lieutenants because having that range of just, first off, they're so cheap.
Right. What are they?
The Gravis captain is cheap by himself. He's 137.
That's not bad at all.
For the mass-crafted power sword, which is -3, 2 damage. And then his Bolt Storm Gauntlet, which is a 3-shot pistol, which is okay. I think it's decent, but he's not there to really do a whole lot.
And it's also a
Power Fist.
Power Fist as well.
He's also got a Power Fist.
Awesome. So he's made to he can trade some blows. And when he gets into close combat.
When the time comes for him to do any heroic intervention, he can get in there and do some work, which is what I'm going to use him for. He's going to just be there to be a deterrent for charges into the big core.
Right.
But the lieutenants, I've got them with the default setup that they have from the Dark Imperium. One's got a power sword, one's got a mastercrafted bolt rifle, or an auto bolt rifle. It's mastercrafted auto bolt rifle.
Right, and that's, is that Rapid Fire 2?
No, it's Rapid Fire 1, but it's for mastercrafted, it's just 1 additional damage.
Right, that does extra damage. That's
so it's really good. And then the lieutenants, they confer a buff that synergizes really well with the captain, which is rerolling wound rolls of 1.
Oh, that's not
Yes.
bad at all.
And being able to have 2 of those guys lets me spread them out and really.
Yeah, because I
divvy
mean,
up
it's
the
a little harder to keep your captain near everything, especially when you have to deal with multiple threats encroaching
Yes.
from multiple ways. But if you have 2 lieutenants, that wound roll is so important.
Yes.
A lot of people think too much about, they focus entirely on hitting, right? It's like, oh, well, if you can't hit them, then there's no point in the wound roll. But there's, especially with now how wounding strength versus toughness has changed.
Yes.
It's a little more difficult to wound now. So, yeah, revealing ones is solid.
Yeah, it's really good. I really like it. And then just like I said, having them as 2 separate guys lets them spread out a bit, kind of like get some more reach on other units.
Right.
And I, to be fair, I like the models, and I like the thematic concept of when I take a captain, he's got his 2 lieutenants.
Yeah, I
his
really,
right and left hand.
I am really happy that they've kind of delved a little more into how like military hierarchy works.
You used to have like chapter master, captain, sergeant.
Yeah,
right?
that
Like
was it. That was
nothing
it.
in between. Like forget that. But now that
I
there's
feel like a
lieutenants-
page of Gilliman's Adeptus or Codex Astartes just like slipped out of his binder before he like bound it in his little thing when he handed it out, and they were like, "Oh shit, we're
He went
finding
under
all
his
this new
and
stuff."
then when he woke up, he was like, "Oh, I remember I dropped a sheet over here." He just,
He was
slapped
like,
it back in
yeah.
there. But no, that's all the HQs that I have in that lineup. Again, they're going to be part of that big core that goes up the board, deals with any problems that it may have. And then we go to the troop choices, which this is where I start injecting a little bit
Of standard Space
This
Marines.
is where you get a hybrid combination in this slot, where it's you get some intercessors and we have some tacticals. And let's go through the intercessors. I have 2 squads of intercessors, as right there. These guys, the way I see them right now is that they're the anvil, right?
Right.
They're meant to like sit on something because they have the reach with their guns, the 30 inches on the bolt rifles, to really be effective at a good range.
And
outside of
despite
other
being a
bolts.
small 5-man squad, they
Yeah.
do have 2 wounds.
2
per
wounds
model.
apiece.
So it's not like you're missing out on like you don't use a 5-man tac squad to hold an objective. You usually go to use it to grab an objective. But
Yes.
usually, very rarely do you bunker down on it and plan to stay there.
Yeah.
But with these guys, they have that 10-man squad squatting on an
Yeah.
objective kind of potential.
but with a smaller footprint, so
Yeah.
they stay in that terrain really well.
Yeah.
But
That
my mindset
cover
is that
benefit.
they're either going to be forward vanguards to kind of go and take objectives and just sit there, or even like stay in the midfield and kind of like hold those positions.
And honestly, they do kind of have the ability to help push things off of it that are entrenched
Yes.
in an objective or in terrain near an objective because they have that -1 AP. So thou, any cover benefits you're getting, it's gone.
They're able to get people off, and also they're not too shabby in the assault phase. They have 2 attacks apiece.
Ooh, that's solid.
So there's still potency in those individual models versus a 10-man tac squad where there's
Right.
1 attack apiece. That's how I'm running these 2 intercessors. And then to complement that, I have 2 tactical squads, 10-man tactical squads. Each one's kind of fitted out roughly the same. I've got the sergeant with a combi plasma. I could change it out with a combi melta.
if you're dealing with vehicles
If I
a lot.
wanted to, if I was planning on dealing with, that's the other thing about this list. It's a little rough against vehicles. It's kind of okay against vehicles. Flyers,
I mean, if you're willing to overcharge with plasma, which I always am,
Which with this
regardless
list-
with the captain being close to me, I love doing it because that's how I've always played it. I love the risk.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's strength 8 now
Yeah.
And does 2 damage, it's solid harass for vehicles because even the heavier armed or toughness 8 vehicles can have to worry about them.
Yes. But going forward, in this particular squad, I have a heavy bolter and a flamer.
Okay.
Now for the heavy bolter, because that's really good, 36-inch reach, strength 5, -1, 1 damage. With the changes to the heavy rules, I would love to just see this more. It's only 10 points still.
Yeah.
It's really good to use. I was really happy with how that came out to be.
Honestly, I miss those. I love those models, honestly, with that
Yeah.
big belt
Yeah.
attached to their
Big,
backpack.
yeah.
I
All
love
painless.
it. So it's going to be great to see, people
Yeah.
running those potentially.
And the intention that I have for this unit goes inside with the transports, so I'm going to hop over there really quick.
Of course.
I have 2 transports in the list. I have a Razorback and I have a Rhino.
So I assume this being a 10-man squad, they're going to be occupying the Rhino.
Yes, this particular guys, they're going to be. I'm still tossing it up between whether I should just combat squad them for the MSU potential, or keep them together for the durability for the special weapons. Right.
But I guess you could choose that on a game-by-game basis,
Yes.
depending on what you need to face.
Yes. So the heavy bolter got a nice reach touch. Flamers are better now.
Oh yeah.
The D6 auto hit, strength 4, no damage, no AP, damage 1. It still gets some work done. Can do a lot against like mid-tier infantry and all that stuff.
Especially in massed when you mass them. So if you ever get a squad with another flamer near them,
Yes.
that's all of a sudden
I think it's a good
Take it
option
on
to
to
have because this is attack list for the most part.
right.
And I wanted to
Going up
to-
against Gene Stealer, Cults, Guardsmen, anything that's got squads, that's gonna immediately pay out.
Yep, to deal with those horde units. That's what this core tac squad's for. And then the other tactical squad I have is there we go, right about it. Losing track of squad. We'll cover the transports in a second because I do have it's a Razorback and a Rhino.
Right.
One will definitely combat squad and ride in the Razorback.
Right.
And that's because the other tactical squad has, oh dear, yeah, this one, the other tactical squad has a heavy bolter as well,
Okay.
but this time it's got a plasma gun.
Okay. So you're going more
could-
elite infantry and potentially anti.
I could swap it out for a melta gun if I felt the need to, because I do.
Right.
I'm at 1996, and there's only like a 6-point difference. I
Right.
could just shave a little here.
So you
and
can
there.
have a heavy bolter squad, 5-man heavy bolter squad,
Yeah,
sitting in
just
some
sitting in some
terrain,
terrain.
holding maybe a backfield objective, or laying down some harass.
Yes, and they can still advance just
Right.
fine, while the other guys ride in the Razorback to go and threaten some elite units. Because the Razorback, he's currently outfitted with a Storm Bolter, which is really good because it's rapid fire too.
Oh yeah, some 4 shots. Storm bolters are scary now.
It's really good now, especially with the Rhino because you can take 2.
Yeah. Oh my God, 8 storm bolter shots.
So I have
now.
a Rhino rolling around with essentially rapid fire 4.
Yeah.
So when it gets to rapid fire, it's 8 shots at half range, which
Wow.
is really good. I'm really happy with how they're looking there. And then a twin assault cannon.
Oh, that's
Because-
right. Assault cannons are something you can bring on. I mean, it's I overlook it all the time.
Oh, yes.
Because you always saw it was either heavy bolter or twin las cannon. But yeah, I remember playing against a lot of Blood Angels that
Yes.
use the twin assault cannons.
Yeah, and the
I mean,
twin-
they're really solid.
Yeah, no, especially now because it's heavy 12.
Oh my goodness.
Strength 6 -1, 1 damage.
That's so close to being the Avenger Gatling cannon
Yes,
from a knight.
yes, yes.
Very close.
It's pretty good. I'm a big fan of it. I kind of gave it that assault cannon because I wanted to test it out.
right, of course.
But I like that it's a mid-ranged in terms of like dealing with problems. It's kind of like it's well balanced. It'll touch anything and do well against do
Right,
okay
right.
against anything. It's kind of a jack of all trades. Plus, I didn't have the points for the twin las cannon because that's
Right.
50.
And an assault cannon is still a little. I mean, you've already got 2 heavy bolters. You don't really need to go unless you're
Didn't need to go
really
that
pushing heavy
yeah.
bolters. Yeah, you can try out assaults for that a little more oomph.
Yeah, a little more oomph. I could squeeze a bit more for that. What is it? The las cannon with the twin plasma.
Oh, that's right.
I think it's still a twin plasma. I have to double check because it used to be a twin link plasma, so it might be
Yeah.
still a twin plasma gun. But yeah, no, that guy, he's going to be rolling around just dishing out some shots like crazy because it's hitting on 4s. I'm not going to sweat.
Right.
It's heavy. But yeah, no, that's the transports, rhinos, blah, blah. Hop back to the tactical squads. Like I said, one with the plasma gun, one with the heavy bolter.
So is the plan to have, if you combat squad that, you put the plasma gun guy in the Razorback,
Yes.
and that follows with the captain to get that potential to overcharge.
It'll stay
those-
generally within range until it's time to go and tackle an objective that we pass by,
Right.
and just kind of sit there. More often than not, that'll be in the midfield. The assault cannon will be able to reach a lot
Right,
of things.
of course, of course.
The plasma gun will be able to hop out and do some work. And also, having the Razorback nearby, it also serves as another target saturation for
Right.
what your opponent will have to deal with. Plus, it'll also be a nice shield for all your characters.
I mean, as soon as you fire off that twin assault cannon, they're not going to be able to ignore it again.
Oh,
they're
no.
just going to be like, oh, it's a Razorback. And a lot of people in previous editions still are writing off these transports. And then you're like, oh, that's 12 shots,
Yeah,
and they're
it's 12
strength
shots,
6, and that's
strength
gross.
six. Yeah.
That's a Flyrant from the Tyranids. 12 shots, strength 6.
Yeah, because that Flyrant's toughness 6.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll do some work.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's all the troop choices that we have right there. Now going into, where do we got? We got.
Do you have any elites for this unit, or is it just?
I do have a couple of elites, and this follows the core that marches up.
Right.
Because there's a lot of synergy in what this core is when you find. I have an apothecary.
Of course, they're just so good right now.
They're super good right now, being able to heal D3 wounds, especially with how Primaris models are multi-wound.
Yeah.
And I'm incorporating some multi-wound models in this list. And also just being able to revive, just bring back any of those multi-wound models is really good on a 4+, as long as the entire unit's not wiped out, of course.
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially you're touching base in Necron territory with the apothecary.
Yeah. Defibrillator to just do some CPR on the guy
Yeah.
and get him up. And then following him, I have a Primaris Ancient.
With the banner, and we talked a little bit about this in our we talked about this in our orc game where your banner bearer just kicks some ass.
Oh yeah, banners are good.
In general.
Yeah, banners are where it's at this edition.
Yeah.
If your army can take one, look at it. You should seriously consider taking one.
And how your army can synergize around it, because right now if you plan around that banner, it does work.
Oh yeah, and this list plans around that banner, the banner, the apothecary, and the HQs. And you'll find as
you've got a very resilient foot infantry slogging up the table.
Oh yes.
But it's going to be hard to an implacable advance is still a lot more devastating than a lot of people give it credit.
Yes.
A lot of people are like, oh, it's foot slogging, I don't need to deal with it for now, or I can, put some heavy weapon into it later while I deal with all the fast-moving stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's midfield. It can get to any objective it needs to,
Yes.
and it's really hard to move.
Oh yeah, it's really hard to move. For the Ancient's banner, what it does now is that when a model dies on a 4+, that model gets to do a shooting attack, or it gets to do a melee attack.
Oh my God, that's so good.
It's like a surge, like last breath kind of deal.
Yeah. You see the banner and you're like, nope, not yet.
Not quite done. I get one more lick in before.
Oh, I like that a lot. I honestly really like the model. I'm always a huge fan of painting banners. It's one of my favorite things to do.
The Dark Imperium one's a beautiful banner. It's huge. It's very detailed.
Isn't it non-chapter specific too?
It's a blank center, so you can put whatever you want on it.
That's amazing. So that's so cool. Yeah.
So that's part of the core. It synergizes really well because when the model dies, he gets the last surge. Apothecary brings him back up.
Yeah, and then he's still fighting possibly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Next turn he pops right back up. It's like, no, turns out that wasn't my last breath. I'm ready to fight again.
Which has got me more excited because we know that there are Primaris apothecaries. We know that from the transfer sheet. We know it's happening. It was in the book, Dark Imperium, and we saw some artwork of I think it was an Imperial Fist Primaris apothecary with 2 medical servitors with him. So who knows if we're going to get some kind of I
can't wait if that's a kit.
Like every servitor, every servitor maybe adds +1 to your roll for the revive. How cool would that be? I'm just saying, I'm looking forward to potentially, as you get more tools to you, you can start switching out for more Primaris stuff.
Now that you bring that up, I'm going to be swapping out the apothecary with a Primaris apothecary. And we've seen, if you look at your index, the points between a regular company ancient and a Primaris ancient for Space Marines, there's a 2-point difference.
That's, wow. That's awesome.
There's really only a 2-point difference, so I expect the same with an apothecary Primaris.
I'm sure if there's medical servitors, those are probably going to be a little more
you probably have to
expensive.
pay points to take those guys.
Of course.
But just a base apothecary, probably not that much of a
That's
difference.
exciting, honestly.
Yeah.
I love the models. The Narcesium Gauntlet, always really cool. The original model is all clamped up like this. Really looking forward to getting a little more dynamic because I just think it's a cool tool.
Yeah, and so those are the only 2 choices that I have for my elite slot to be a part of that core. And now in the fast attack, I have a more forward unit. I'm using the Inceptors.
Okay.
Inceptors, not Interceptors. They're both.
So the jetpack guys.
Yeah, the new Jump Marines
with jetpacks coming out of their necks.
Yeah. And with their twin heavy bolters, assault bolters.
Yeah, assault bolters. Those things are crazy.
Yeah, those things are really good. They have the rule for jetpacks where they can just pop anywhere on the field.
Yeah.
As long as they're outside of 9 inches. I'm using those guys primarily to either take out, go for an objective at turn 3, because you got to take them out at turn 3, just for a quick grab.
Right.
And just also to be a skirmishing, harassing unit for the enemy's backline.
How many wounds? Is it 3 wounds or is it just 2 for that?
They are, I have it right here. They are 2 wounds apiece because
and they're toughness 5.
Because if you look at them, they're in the Gravis pattern armor.
Yeah, so they're just
They're toughness 5 with 2 wounds apiece.
That's solid. That's
Yeah.
real good. They're going to be a little rough to deal with.
Yes, no, it's really good. They are also movement 10. However, don't get confused. These guys are not meant for melee. They do have 2 attacks apiece. The
Don't
sergeants
they
have
do
3.
mortal wounds on the charge?
On the charge, yes.
So that's just kind of like a last-ditch effort. If you
It's
need
a
to get a
last-ditch.
charge in, you can. Or
Because-
if you want to tie up something that's terrible at close combat.
But the primary reason you don't want to get them locked up is because their guns are just so much better.
Right.
Because each one has a assault bolter, which is assault 3, strength 5. It's just heavy bolters at 18 inches.
And you get 2 of them.
You get 2 per dude. So that's 18 assault
That's a lot.
heavy bolter
Heavy
shots
bolter shots.
at 18
Yeah.
inches with
Wow.
on a platform that moves 10. So I would drop this dude at max 18-inch ranges towards a unit that I want to mess with,
Right.
and then just kind of like kite them and skirmish them and just be like
Right.
this,
You can.
like,
That's a lot of
harrying
That's a
unit.
lot of strength 5 harass.
yeah, I'm forcing you to deal with it. And granted, they are a little pricey with 225 points.
That's for 3.
Yeah, but when I
is
use
pretty
these
pricey.
guys, I would like to see how effective they are. Just being able to plop down anywhere and just deliver 18 heavy bolter shots and then just be annoying.
I mean, honestly, 18 heavy bolter shots is an
I think it's not-
exceptional amount
yeah,
of ammunition going down.
purely because of the strength 5 -1.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And I suspect that there's some potency there, and that's probably why they price them as such. I just have to use them and see.
And as far as fast attack slot goes, aside from bikes, they're pretty. They're not light armored, right? You need to put heavy weaponry or special weaponry into these guys to deal with them quickly.
Yeah, they have a 3-up armor.
Small arms fire is going to be really hard unless you're putting massive quantities into just 3 models.
Like I said, you have to. They're meant to be like, hey, look at me. Look at me. Don't mind the
they're
core that's
flying distraction carnifexes.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep dumping 18 strength 5 -1.
Yeah,
shots.
and I love the fact that you can put them anywhere you want because it's kind of like we're looking at these Tau battle suits. They're much like Tau battle suits in
they have
that
the fly rule.
they come in, they have the fly rule, they have a lot of offensive range, and then you have to deal with them. They're just at somewhere you want them to be, and then, if your opponent's playing well or you're playing well, they're somewhere you don't want them to be, and you're just going to have to deal with them now.
Yeah, and like you either have to deal with them or just take the shots every time.
And that's not going to be fun for anyone.
Because it's an assault weapon. So if I'm in a tight spot, I can just advance them away and still shoot.
Yeah, and you're hitting on 4s then.
Yeah, I'm not going to sweat that with 18 shots.
Yeah, right.
It's a really good unit on paper, and I like to see them. I like to utilize them in one of our battle reports coming soon.
I'm looking forward to playing
just
against.
test them out.
Yeah. So, do you have anything? Don't tell me you don't have any Hellblasters.
Oh no, we haven't even gotten to the heavy support yet.
Oh, so there's still more fast attack?
No, we're done with the fast attack. That's it.
Okay.
That's the only this is the big distraction unit to deal with.
Okay.
To be like either you focus on the core, or these guys are just going to keep wrecking your backline
Right.
and taking your objectives.
That makes sense.
So yeah, heavy support. I've got my all-time favorites still, the Centurions.
Right. I'm really looking forward to when there's enough Primaris Marines that you don't take Centurions anymore
Until they introduce one.
Until the
The Primaris
equivalent.
Centurion.
Yeah.
The Legionary or something like that.
I forget what they're called in the book, but yeah, they didn't sound.
They have there's actually in the book they have a similar name, similar one that's just like a heavy. It makes you think either a combination of.
It was a beefed up Gravis armor, is what it
yeah.
was supposed, or it described as.
like a heavier one with like guns, like akimbo.
I'm not looking forward to fighting it. They sound really, really mean.
Yeah, they're pretty mean. But these guys are just 3, because I like running them just in 3s because of how pricey they are. It's 291 points for how I've kitted them out, which is the Hurricane Bolters, because I still stand by that. I'm being probably one of the best weapons in the game.
They're really
the best
crazy.
mid-range weapon for Space Marines.
Heavy gunfire.
And then grav cannons to deal with any
Armor
Armor 3 guys,
Yeah.
any vehicles, any monsters.
Anyone who's played them in 7th and 6th edition, or against them in 7th or 6th edition, is going to look at them and think back to how much they hated them and then focus them, regardless of. 5 shots without having to roll for them is really solid.
Yeah, and then this is where we start seeing the synergy with the core, with the captain being able to reroll hits of 1, and then the lieutenants being able to roll the wounds of 1, And then you have the apothecary being able to heal them D3 or revive a
And they
3-wound model.
Grav amps to allow them to reroll.
No,
or is,
that's no longer a thing.
oh, so it's just not a thing. Okay.
Grav literally is it's strength 5 minus 3, 1 damage, or it's D3 damage against models with 3-up save or better.
That's right. Okay.
But now, like I said, we start seeing the synergy because they're a 3-wound model. As opposed to they used to be 2.
Instead of just 2.
With a 2-up armor save, they're just as slow as like the Gravis pattern.
So they can keep up with the captain if they want to. So if you want to keep them advancing, you can do that.
Yeah, and like when one dies, Apothecary brings up that 3-wound model back. Just pop that there.
I'm gross.
Yeah,
That's gross. That's gross.
I know, right? It's like, it's Apothecaries are really good.
Yeah. That's what all those sniper special weapons are.
And then you have the company Ancient being like, oh, this guy died, 4+. Grav cannons.
Here's a 5-shot grav cannon.
Yeah, grav cannons to death, or just hurricane bolters to death, depending on the range. But yeah, that's how I've outfitted those guys. And then followed by them, I had, again, another injection of regular Space Marines, because these guys are moving forward. Everybody's kind of like being more advanced and just taking positions and holding them. And then we have a skirmish unit in the back, really harrying at all ranges, except for the really long range, which is why I have these Devastators.
Right.
I have a very basic MSU unit of Devastators.
Is it a 5-man squad?
It's a 5-man squad, outfitted with 2 missile launchers and 2 las cannons.
Okay, so yeah, you've got the ability. I really like missile launchers. I'm really hoping to see a lot more of them.
They are really. That's why I don't blame them for being the same price as the las cannon, which is 25 points. Because of the versatility.
Isn't it minus 1 strength less when you're using the anti-armor,
1 strength, 1 AP less.
Okay.
But
so
same amount
minus
of
-3, not -4.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Or is it -2?
-2.
Okay. I'm just mixing things up.
Crack missiles are strength 8, -2 D6 damage. And las cannons are strength 9, -3 D6 damage.
Right.
But frag missiles are heavy D6, strength 4, AP nothing. But having that platform to be like, it's a versatile platform, but also I can still deal with vehicles.
Yeah, and since you can split your fire, honestly, you can focus those las cannons and then put 2d6 frag missiles out.
Yeah, and now
not bad.
These guys are meant to just stay in terrain in the home base, hold whatever back home objectives that there are, and then just reach out and touch
a building with good line of sight.
Exactly, that too.
Yeah.
And then just kind of like just deal the damage where it needs to be done.
That's awesome.
And then now those guys
so
are
these are the guys who are going to be following your main core, right?
Yes, this is another part. Yeah, so in the main core we have the captain, we have the 2 lieutenants, the apothecary and the ancient, and with a razorback kind of there to also just mitigate the damage. We have the centurions there to also mitigate damage, but also deal out punishment.
These 2 guys, correct?
These 2 guys kind of like off to the side, kind of advancing and taking forward positions and just being an anvil. And then now we have the Hellblasters. Hellblasters. Really good for 190 points. Gets you 5 2-wound models with a 3-up armor save, hitting on 3s, with the plasma incinerators, which are like.
They have a spicy name, so they're extra spicy.
Yeah. They're the plasma gun's bigger, angrier brother.
Yeah.
With a strength 7, -4 AP.
Good God.
1 damage, 30-inch range. So it even reaches even further.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
And overcharged strength 8, -4, 2 damage, right? Those guys will be like the other hammer, because the Centurions are a hammer. The heavy supports are all hammers, right?
Right.
And the troops are all anvils with a little bit of hammering that can be done.
And these guys are going to be nasty and probably target priority 1 in that core. And that's why you have the Ancient and
the
Apothecary.
Yes.
Because everyone, as long as they're close to the captain and the lieutenants, all anyone's going to want to do is kill those Hellblasters.
Absolutely.
Because it's, you're re-rolling any ones that could potentially hurt you.
Yes.
Even if you re-roll to a 1, somehow you have an apothecary there to help out, get him back up, and he gets to fire anyways with his ancient, or with the ancient being there. There's just so much redundant fallbacks.
Yes.
It's solid.
It's a multi-layered system. You have like these guys handing out buffs, and then you have these mitigation factors.
Yeah.
With the apothecary and the ancient. That way, these guys can still do the things that they need to do, and have the resilience. Because another thing about the Primaris is that they're only like 5 models per unit for most of them that are multi-model. 3 or less. So when they lose a dude, they lose.
Kind of start feeling it.
Yeah, the combat effectiveness drops
Oh,
noticeably.
you know how I know that with running knights every now and
Yes.
then. As soon as you lose one, you're like, oh.
That's a concept turned up for 11 for the
Yeah,
for the
exactly,
Primaris
exactly.
kind of get in the mid range.
Yeah, there's some mid-range for that.
But there's merit to being able to introduce these new units, the way that changes.
Oh, honestly, the way this list sounds, this sounds scary.
Yep.
What does it come to in total?
1996. Like I said,
1996.
I can make adjustments to put in like a combi melta or a melta gun.
Right, so you've got a little wiggle room for points. So if you need to, if you feel like you're getting hurt by vehicle heavy lists,
Yeah.
you can put things in there to deal with those.
I see this as a really good. I personally see this as a really good starter list for somebody wanting to who got into it with Dark Imperium and then
Right.
was like, okay, I want to build up to 2K.
Right.
Like, what do I need? And
Yeah, I imagine if you
be
just
like-
started in a gaming group that has a lot of veteran players, they're all going to want to be playing 2,000 point
yeah.
armies. So really quick way to build up to it. You aren't going to be unhappy buying tac squads or really any of these Space Marine.
Tac squads are so
like-
good.
Yeah.
That's why I have 2 of them in there to instead of just the base 3 requirement, I put 4 troop choices.
Right.
Again, because the Rhino and the Razorback are going to be within range to kind of like be like the front shields
Right.
of the core for the characters for the most part.
Right.
Because the characters just do so much work just being there.
Mm-hmm.
And just move up and hold positions and just like be this Death Star. I didn't want to say it, but
Damn
it's
it, Jared.
but it's a Death Star. It's like the 8th edition Death Star.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, which is like so tame compared to 7th.
Oh, of course. This is a very, it's a very scary kind of blob that
Yeah.
it's going to draw a lot of attention, but it's not something that you just can't have
deal with.
something to deal with, right?
Yeah.
That was the problem with Death Stars earlier, was that you had one list that could handle a specific Death Star, and that was it.
Again, like the core weakness of this army is fighting an army that just gets stuck in and just charges in like a horde boys,
Right.
Tyranids. I think would give this a tough time because we're wanting to move forward and take objectives. Tyranids want to get in there and touch your butt.
Yeah.
And the only countercharge that I have is with the Gravis captain and like the sword lieutenant, right?
Right.
To really do anything. And that's it. Like there's no other like really good like melee capability in this
Right.
army. If you
So
want
anything that moves really fast and gets in close combat is probably going to be.
Yeah.
I imagine someone. I saw someone talking online about how much more they like witches in Dark Eldar, and how they're thinking about doing a very witch-heavy.
Oh yeah, you totally
list.
can with
And
nowadays.
I would love to see that because they move fast, they hit really hard. They're glass cannons, but man, it'd be fun to see those kind of things up against this very take-all-comers style list.
And again, I will say it is slightly cued towards dealing with horde lists with
Right.
the heavy bolters and the flamer,
Right.
and then the missile launchers. But that's trying to compensate for its weaknesses that it might have.
Right.
And then like super long range armies like Tau and things like that can do a number on these guys if they have like the first turn and
Of course.
put that damage on so they reduce their
Right,
effectiveness.
and especially anyone who has a lot of snipers, like the Necron's sniper unit, I feel like would be really scary against this because they're essentially made to get in there and counter
Yes.
character units that have these special buffs.
So all in all, this is a very mild, semi-competitive, casual list. Like you would take this on like a casual tourney
Right.
for funsies, or just playing a big game with your buddies. I like it. I think this is a good start for a lot of people who are wanting to build 2K from the Dark Imperium who are playing Space Marines.
Right.
Because you're using the entire box.
Right. You're using everything and then adding a little more things
Here and
that
there, yeah,
are really
and then you're
good.
set.
Well, thank you so much for going over this list with us today. We'll probably have more of these kind of army builder style videos that we're going to be putting out in the future. Let us know what you think of Jared's list, and be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time, guys.